You're listening to Passages, a podcast about great quotes, life, and the wisdom of the Bible. And now your hosts, Drew Kaiser, Jason Pulliam, and Tim Layton.
And Patrick Birch.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, indeed. We're back for another episode of Passages, and we're excited to be here. Thank you for joining us. We have the whole gang back together again. I feel like every episode we introduce who's here because we have a different mix, but I'm glad we have enough guys to keep it rolling through
where
life's
we can do it every week. That's
interesting
good,
things that happen to us.
Now, we are going to have to redo that logo and get Patrick on here and those tassels off of Tim's
off my
shorts.
pants.
It's just a matter of time. Just a little
Off my culottes.
Any of you
graphic design
any
will
of
erase
our
the tassels and
I would challenge
put a
any
new
of our
person.
listeners who are into graphic design or artists.
it's dangerous. Patrick and I have the same reaction to that.
To take the bows off my pants and add Patrick to the picture.
That's right. Never mind. You didn't
can
hear
get
me
some-
say that.
You can get some interesting fan art.
I would love to see it, but it sounds like it just got shot down.
No, I say go for it. Come on, passengers, you can do it.
This would be like in the UK, they...
What if we were like all holding Patrick in our arms across the middle and he was the fourth guy?
I like it.
I just want to throw something out there to get the creative juices going.
I like that.
To the
Anything but
passengers.
the tassels.
Yeah. Just get rid of the tassels.
And
Anything else you want to do,
and no
help
loops on
yourself.
the cargo
And we would
shorts.
prefer to stay, the logo size, not actual size.
And while
Yeah.
you're getting
Trim
rid
us
of the
up.
tassels, pair of big boy pants I'd be okay with.
Yeah.
No.
Long pants.
And by big boy pants, I don't mean husky. I mean like long pants. Yeah.
As if Tim ever wore them.
Yeah.
I got some on right now.
Well,
Well, that's
true.
because
It's pretty
but
cold.
25
Yeah.
degrees
so,
outside.
Yeah.
It has to get really cold for Tim to put long pants on.
All right. I've got something from What's Happening in Leeds.
I'm so excited to hear this.
So, Drew talked about social media and responsible use of it. One of the responsible uses of social media from time to time is the humor that can be gained from a Facebook page called What's Happening in Leeds, Alabama. Now, you do have to be discerning.
Yes.
And it's not always what you need, but
Make that covenant with your eyes before
make
you go
a
to
covenant
what's
with
happening in
your
Leeds.
eyes.
You do not have to live in Leeds. They'll let anybody in.
They will.
Yeah, that's true.
So here's a post that I feel like, could spark a little discussion.
I'm so happy I haven't seen this.
And so this post from What's Happening in Leeds, Alabama, what's happening at the old Guadalajara?
Oh,
It's
great
all
question.
fenced off, maybe a Mexican restaurant, maybe a Hardee's. Now, even in the post itself, we begin with a couple of the standard funs that people like to make.
Yeah.
I'm just funning you, from Sister Jean Evans would say that to us. And so a lot of times when a new construction happens in Leeds, it goes directly to a Hardee's is making a comeback, right? Because we lost a Hardee's for a Whataburger.
That's a running joke.
Or another Mexican
Or it's being
restaurant,
converted into another Mexican
which
restaurant.
would be number 6 or 7.
Which we have a lot of.
Yeah.
Now, I enjoy most all of them.
I do too.
But we probably have as many as we need.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not going to give you all of the responses because some of them I don't feel like make the cut for
Before you get into
such a dignified show as we have.
did any of them actually have the real answer?
There was a lot of discussion about a car wash, and I hope that's not true because we need another car wash like we need a hole in the head.
We've
I
already
mean,
got a car wash.
yeah.
We got one. We got a big one right across the bridge. We got a manual one on this side of the bridge, about 2 blocks away.
automatic.
Nothing's automatic,
It's
man.
okay.
If you wash your
Melissa's-
car occasionally, you know it.
But I washed mine at Moody
Oh,
once. All right. So here are some of the ideas. I like one of the first ones. Maybe it's returning it to its roots as a Shoney's.
you know,
Yeah,
Shoney's
I
still
like
around?
that idea. Just barely.
Just barely.
Yeah.
Just
Hanging on.
hanging on by the skin of their teeth. Probably another Mexican restaurant.
That's low hanging fruit.
that is.
Why not Panda Express?
Okay.
Then
The
there was
question would be
suggestion.
why Panda Express?
Yeah. Not good.
then there's a discussion about we don't need another car wash. They're building one at Buc-ee's. Apparently, there's some people who think that drainage ditch that they're building at Buc-ee's
Oh, that's what they
is
think.
a car wash.
What is that?
I think it's a drainage ditch.
That's a pretty
Or-
impressive
It's very
concrete.
expensive looking.
Yeah.
Also,
Well-
I don't think that little median where they are is big enough for a
Oh,
Buc-ee's,
Of course
Guys,
not.
150 yard long.
That's not a drainage ditch. That's a beaver dam.
Yes.
I don't know if
Call
you
it
know
by
that
the
or
right
not,
name.
but that's what it is. You can't call it a drainage retention pond.
You know, I haven't watched the people work there. Are they all in beaver costumes?
and every now and again you'll hear,
Yep.
It took me a second to find it.
Here's a request for an Olive Garden, a Jason's Deli, which that person was
No.
thrashed thoroughly for
Yeah.
that comment.
Can I throw out a quick aside on Jason's Deli? If you ever go to one, be very careful ordering the low carb sandwich
Yes.
because you will just get a pile of
It's
meat.
a pile of meat.
That's it. I learned that about 20 years ago with Drew and Julie and Cassie on a little
I'm pretty
trip.
sure that was not the corporation's fault. I think the person behind the counter there. made
guess
that
I'll
Is that
mistake.
like you go to McDonald's and order a hamburger with just ketchup,
Hold
and they
the
give
buns
you
or whatever.
a
Yeah.
bun with ketchup on
Yeah,
it?
I just remember thinking, I guess I'm going to hold this lump of
Well,
meat.
it was
in my
offered.
Yeah, when you
hand.
it
say
was offered
hamburger
to you.
ketchup
Yeah.
only,
You ordered
want-
a sandwich and they said, "Do you want it
low
you want
carb?
The low carb?"
I'm like,
And you're
I'm fat. Sure, I'll take low carb.
All right, here's
And they
another
just didn't put
suggestion.
bread on it.
Cane's.
What is that?
It's a chicken restaurant, and
Yeah,
I
it's
think
kind of like a
just
Guthrie's or
it's
Zaxby's.
Yeah, it's another.
That
it's a
property's
Zaxby's
too
on the
big
other
for
branch.
something like that.
Somebody comes in with a strong, probably a Dollar General,
Yeah.
and then somebody says like, "There's one across the street." Like
'Cause
that
they don't
person
like
did
they
you
don't
know,
they don't
right.
understand sarcasm. Real literal
Um,
people around here.
You know, the Dreamer. I wish Jim and Nick's. Nah.
You know what I'd bring? How about a Western sizzling? Oh man, get a
The
Western
Sizzler.
sizzling back
Now-
in there.
now this-
Yeah.
This has claims to have some inside knowledge per the old owner of Guad, who's now the owner of Raoul's,
Oh yeah.
Oh.
who is Raoul,
Who is Raul?
my buddy.
Yeah. Who calls
Are you still Stan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because you're too
Absolutely.
chicken to tell him your real name.
He shakes my hand every time I go in there and acts like
He's
we've been
the
friends for
nicest
years.
guy. I love
and-
him.
Yeah.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Just-
I mean, he's
Yeah.
like
Right.
You don't love him enough to tell him
he's
your
the
real
Mexican
name.
Kevin
Yeah.
Dixon.
You're kind
I
of
mean,
catfishing
you know,
him, actually.
Yeah.
He's got a really strong handshake.
super friendly.
Yeah. Nice guy. Drives a cool car. What's he
Um,
drive? Blue Mustang.
Oh.
But per him, I didn't finish that thought. It's going to be a car wash. So that's where the car
Still
wash
a car
idea here.
wash.
Surely not. I mean that
Don't call me Shirley.
I know.
That's ruthless to put
or
a car
surely.
wash just like a mile or less than
I
a
just
mile
hope
away
they
from
make
the
it
old
big
car
enough.
wash that's been there
It-
forever.
If
Is
they-
that like the Waffle Houses? 2 Waffle Houses right across the
well,
way?
In my opinion,
'Cause
there's
there's
only one.
Well, yes. But there's also another car wash just past the Waffle
There
House.
is. Yeah.
Into Moody.
Here's
There
an
is.
idea that says, how about a combined car wash and taco drive-through? You can eat your tacos while you're going through the car wash, win-win. And then somebody says, with a vacuum at the end, right? Because,
Oh.
if you're going to eat
Now that-
tacos,
yeah,
right? I
that's
mean,
smart.
Do they,
this is-
I
do
could
they just
sell
reach
that.
in and vacuum off your chest, like your shirt?
that'd be perfect,
Yeah,
wouldn't
that
it?
would be.
Yep.
Do you
They're
think if
there
they do a
every
car
day.
wash, they could put in an automated one that my truck will go through? Because I have problems getting my truck through car washes
I don't
these
know if you're
days.
going to find that.
That's frustrating.
That's not a truck. That's
This
a
one
tank.
says, Huey Magoo's up here would be nice. The one
a
in
Huey
Montgomery
Magoo's?
is awesome.
Huey
Hold on, I
Anybody
gotta
ever
look
heard
this
of a
up.
Huey
No.
Magoo's?
I'm not going to
just
eat
make that
anything
up.
that has the term goo in it.
Okay, Huey Magoo's chicken tenders. So it's like a
Oh,
Cane's.
another-
There we
Yeah,
go.
let's
Another
build
chicken
that
tender
right
place.
next to Chick-fil-A. That'd be
Chick-fil-A.
brilliant.
Yeah. It'll take off.
Okay, so there are many thoughts, but I just wanted to, sort of whet the appetite there.
Could be the new pickleball court.
Let's our
What do y'all think should be there?
non-local listeners know how exciting life is in Leeds.
Absolutely. So, so let's come up with what it should be. What if we could level it and build what Leeds needs right there, what would it be?
We got plenty of fast food places, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Probably a sit-down restaurant, maybe.
Yeah, a Buffalo Wild Wings would be a
That'd be
good,
nice.
good
I like
play.
that
would-
idea.
That's good.
Yeah, that would be a good call. Definitely, definitely.
sushi place, maybe.
No, we don't need another hibachi sushi place. They're like the Mexican
They're getting to be
restaurants.
like
They're
Mexicans.
everywhere. Yeah.
That's true.
I'm a big Buffalo Wild Wings fan. I think that one would be good. Hey, if we could get a Walk-Ons right there, that'd be pretty nice.
Something like that. A little
Something
bit
like that.
A little bit more upscale, just in terms of a good place.
But still
to sit
somewhere
down.
you can go
But,
and
take the family.
You go after a baseball game and all
Yeah.
that kind. What we don't need is another car wash.
No. Just say no to the car wash.
What is the deal with, what's going to happen with all these car washes? And they're building them all over the place, these big palatial car washes. In 10 years, they're going to be vacant properties. Just watch.
One of the comments on this thread brought up a conspiracy theory.
Oh, hang on.
Build the car wash. It's just another opportunity for money laundering.
I believe
Yes.
it is like the mattress store. That's what we need.
Ooh,
Another
a
mattress store.
store.
Yeah. Mattress World.
I mean, we could have
Crazy Ed's mattress world.
we could have our very own Breaking Bad right here in Leeds.
Yep.
True. I mean, it happens.
All right.
Why wouldn't it happen at
and it's not a-
35094?
It's not a far leap to go from car wash to meth in Leeds.
Well, we will. We'll continue to monitor what's happening in Leeds.
Just saying, it's true.
And we may have a recurring segment here from time to time.
I love
Yeah.
this little
All right.
town, but I'm just speaking
Yeah.
truth here. Guys, I want to bring up a little article that one of our passengers, who is also my mom, sent me this article, and she said, y'all should talk about this on the podcast. And I thought, okay, let's talk about it. So this was published first on February 18th. It's been updated here recently. And this comes out of Rainbow City, Alabama. So one of our neighbors to the north, 30 miles to the north of us, up 411 or so. Rainbow City police are investigating a possible, which the word possible in this article bothers me a little bit, but a possible domestic incident where part of a woman's chin was bitten off. The incident happened February 16th, just before 2 a.m. Another problem is it happened in the middle of the night. Things never happen good after midnight. She was taken to the hospital for her injuries. Some guy whose name I can't pronounce was arrested and charged with second-degree domestic violence. A mugshot will be added to the story once it becomes.
Fabius.
Come on, give us a
Yeah,
mugshot.
Yeah, Fabius Zeki Fabius, maybe? I don't know. But,
What?
the thought of having, I've been bitten before, and being bitten hurts. But having your chin bitten off to steal from an old radio show in Birmingham, OFF off.
Mm.
That
Well, that's the tenderloin, isn't it?
I don't know.
That's why I chose the chin.
That's why I keep
That's
a
the good
beard.
part.
You don't really know where my chin is. That and if I shave it, I look like a turtle. So
I
I
just
mean, it
learned
was
a
really
new,
weird.
I knew reason to have a beard.
Yeah, that it hides. It's like chin camo.
If you're in the
And if
middle
you're
of
going to
chin
bite,
decoy.
if you bite it off, you're going to get a mouthful of hair. So
That is,
Yeah.
yeah, hairball.
Nobody likes it. Nobody
Okay,
likes.
You'll be over there in the corner. You'll be like, "Who did that?"
Nobody likes hair in their chin.
Yeah, no.
if you're in the middle of a domestic
Not by the hair
dispute, do
of
you
my
let
chinny
someone
chin
get their
chin.
face that close to you?
I don't know.
That's pretty interesting.
I don't even know how
attack
that
vector.
happens. Yeah,
Yeah, there are many gaps in that story.
yeah.
Well,
Hopefully not in his
what do you
teeth.
think, like a-
that would be a weird
like
jagged
a
bite
nose
mark.
to nose confrontation,
Maybe.
and then all of a sudden just a drop down.
But I mean, when
I mean,
Mike
it had to be
Tyson,
something like that.
when Iron Mike took Holyfield's ear,
Mhm.
they were in this grappling. They were all tied up, and he just kind of leaned over.
Yeah.
But to bite the chin,
Yeah, biting
takes
biting
some
the
effort.
ear is easy peasy compared to biting the chin.
Yeah, I just-
right?
Chin
Oh.
don't come off.
how many
Real easy.
times? and
maybe it was a very prominent chin.
well, if it was like Jay Leno, it'd be like eating a candy bar. I mean, it's not hard.
It could have been a Jay Leno chin.
But
that's a good
can you? So we've all at some point shaved our face, shaved. I haven't shaved mine in a while, and you've cut yourself on the chin
It bleeds.
Shorn.
for weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, you could stick a whole roll of toilet paper against it, and it'll be a bloody stump before it finally coagulates. I cannot imagine the blood loss of having your chin bitten off.
I'm just stuck on this bad journalism. We need a picture of the chin stump. We need a picture of the
I need
the
some of that.
perpetrator.
I have looked up 7 or 8 articles. They all titled this roughly the same thing, all talking about this incident, and none of them have any additional information.
That is St. Clair County. I bet you could go to the St. Clair County inmate lookup and
How
find
hard
it.
is it to get more information than what was given?
What if that person like had a toothpick? You know?
Yeah. His mugshot looks like the Joker. It's kind of scary. But that is a whole different level of and I'm not trying to make fun of domestic violence. That stuff is awful. Awful stuff. But to bite someone's chin hard enough
That's next level.
that you remove a chunk of it is I can't even fathom the pain.
Yeah.
But I think
the
we all agree
misery.
that's a story that needs to be told.
Well, it does.
They basically, the Rainbow City Tribune or whatever you read from, they basically gave us a headline and then dropped it.
That was AL.com. And let me tell you,
Come on,
AL.com, I am disappointed in the typos in your copy in this article. I don't know if you're listening. Ron, if you will call them and tell them, that would help. But they have a lot of typos in the AL.com article, and it is...
Al needs to get his act together.
It was embarrassing, honestly. But that's my short, brief story. I really am just going to sit back and comment on everyone else's
All
tonight.
right.
Except
That
for
was a good
Patrick.
one.
Me and him may come to blows before the night's
Patrick,
over.
take it away.
I think it's time.
Seems like your little button was hacked.
I think there's a conspiracy against this button over here. Jason,
The hat is owned,
I
Patrick.
would like to rebut maybe let's make this the final rebuttal
Okay.
of the drones.
Okay.
Oh, wow. We're back to the
We're back to the drones because
It's just a distant memory now.
three
So much
episodes
has
ago, when I was absent, I feel like I was unable to defend my point of view.
Well, and it took you that long. It probably took you that long to craft
It did not.
a return.
I would like to
I think-
point out that the press release you read
Yes.
gave no information.
Just
said that it
Came
wasn't
from
the
the
enemy.
family
It
circus.
Yeah.
said they were drones.
It said there were things flying in the sky. So I looked up.
Said it was drones.
I looked up an article by one Dr. Will Austin, president of the Warren County College in New Jersey.
Well, that's not even a real college because I've never heard of it.
They are apparently where was the quote in here? The largest drone education class in New Jersey.
Hmm.
So
I'm sure that's a big class.
You know what
Yeah.
happens every time he lectures? He drones on and on and
Hold on, wait,
on.
let me find the rim shot on this
No,
one.
we need the wah, wah, wah.
Okay, so
Tim, that was a stretch even for you.
one,
He loved it.
on
though.
one night when many drones were reported,
Yes.
doing some digging, this guy looked through the FAA's tracking software, found that there were only 12 drone flights logged in the entire state of New Jersey that day,
Well, that was
and only one the next day.
But if you're flying illegal drones, you're not logging them with the FAA, Patrick.
You know what else is logged
and
with
the
the FAA?
aliens are not logging them.
Do you know what else?
And I win.
Do you know what else is logged with the FAA?
What's that?
Airplanes.
Airplanes. How many were flying that night? I'm sure you're going to give us a
Speaking of
number.
airplanes,
Yeah,
what is with all these crashes?
yeah. Guys, they are falling from the skies.
It is. I mean, I just went home this
flipping over
afternoon.
on their backs.
Yeah.
Went home this afternoon, and there was another one that like 2 people had died in or
Yeah,
something.
that collided in, was it
I hadn't heard
Arizona?
about that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
two
those
small
were
planes.
little Cessnas, which that kind of stuff happens all the time.
But these commuter jets, the regional jets,
Yeah.
I've flown on those. So I'm sure you have as
Yeah.
well. Those are like you're going from Atlanta to Miami or Atlanta to Dallas. You'll hop on those little
That one in
tiny planes.
Toronto, you know, the
The one that flipped over.
yeah. I mean, what was it? The landing gear collapsed or something?
I think
and then
it collapsed
flipped, or-
because he hit the runway
Yeah.
going really hard.
Mhm.
so a lot of talk on this, and of
Yes.
course, no one really knows. You got to
I'm
wait
taking
for
this
the.
off. I'm sweating now.
Yeah, we're back to facts now.
Stuck a little bit.
The NTSB will actually the Canadian version of that will do their investigation,
Yeah.
and in like a year we'll get a report.
the
But
flying Mounties.
yes,
something like that.
But there was a video from another plane. So, planes will pull up next to the runway to wait to take off. This one was coming in front, and the pilot of this plane videoed the whole thing. And the analysis I've read, so this is pure speculation at this point, is the pilot of the plane that crashed did not, when they come in, they'll flare where they'll raise up the front some, and that kind of slows you down before you hit the ground. Didn't flare at all, just was basically just a straight descent into the ground.
He hit the ground hard. Yeah, because the wing came down and hit the ground almost immediately. And we've all been on planes. I mean, we've all flown enough that we've had a couple of hard landings where you hit and you bounce and you're like, oh, that was not just a smooth landing. But
and not any
the
fun
fact
at all.
that all those people survived that one in Toronto was amazing.
Everyone survived.
Yeah, 80 people.
Do you think he did like the pilots after bad turbulence or after a rough landing that was not ideal? You think after that plane flipped over, the pilot came on and goes, "Thank you for flying with us.
Welcome to Toronto.
Welcome."
It's a balmy 14 degrees outside, but don't worry, the fire will warm you.
Give us a minute to allow your flight attendants to clear out the aisles.
I understand that we're just going to ask you all to hang around back there for a minute.
Yeah.
Keep your tray tables
Get it? They were
buckled and
upside down.
Yeah.
Hanging around.
That's
you.
look like a bunch of bats in a cave.
Yeah.
Extra peanuts for
But
everyone
that's
as you leave
five plane accidents in the last 2
Yeah,
weeks
something
or
like
so. I mean, and I've got a flight coming up, guys. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
wheels up headed
long
to
one.
South America. Yeah. Now we're flying.
But Jason, it's
Delta.
the safest form of transportation there is.
So I heard a number that there are. It was on a podcast. I think they said it was 43,000 flights a day in the United States. So, statistically it's pretty safe travel. But not in Canada. Yeah,
not a margin for error, though.
It's probably the Trump administration,
Doge-
pulling back,
Doge
Doge
didn't
cutting
send
back
all
people.
the air
That's
traffic
it.
controllers
Yeah.
home, did he?
Especially the
happened because-
Canadian accident people,
Yes.
because Doge has nothing to do with Toronto.
Toronto. Well, Jason, I will send you this article. Probably won't, I'll forget.
No, it's fine.
With some photo evidence and analysis.
Don't you worry.
Airplanes.
When I said aliens and you broke down, you knew I was right. That's all that matters.
Yeah, the hole in your argument.
Airplanes.
I was listening and trying to be as objective as possible, but Jason got you there.
Yeah.
Not all drones, especially ones that are up to no good, are going to report to the FAA.
Agree, but
Nefarious drones.
but the FAA would track them as still the same.
unless they're cloaked using alien software. I mean, haven't you seen the Klingon ships?
I have.
They would cloak
I have
themselves.
seen the Klingon ships.
The Klingons developed cloaking
Also the
technology.
Romulans.
The Romulans as
Yeah,
well.
they
Yeah,
have cloaking.
Yeah.
So that's been established already.
I mean, even Harry
Yeah,
Potter had a
that's true.
cloak.
The invisibility cloak.
Yeah,
Cloak
he
of
could have just
invisibility.
put the Harry Potter cloak over the plane.
It works.
The
Well,
drone.
either
We
way,
have brought the nerd level up
they
quite a bit in
obviously
here
have
with
quit
you being
flying
here
the
with me.
drones because we haven't heard about them in
No.
months.
Yeah, it's because Trump was elected.
It must be.
He took care
He
of
threatened
that day
to
one.
expose them.
Yeah, Doge shut him down.
Yeah. All right.
I think it's
Why
time
do
to
we
move
say
on.
Doge and not Dogie? Anyway, let's move
It's
on.
not a cowboy.
Doge.
Get
saying
along,
it.
little Dogie.
Needs a little accent mark. Doge.
Doge.
I'm going to do a segment we haven't had in a long time. Your mind is a muscle. Exercise our minds a little bit here. And behind me there's the Bonus Point Band's song, Your Mind is a Muscle. And this is going to be biblical, but it is a debate I hear all the time. People are fascinated by this subject, and they are quick to jump to the conspiracy theory instead of something that I think has factual basis. And so I wanted to float this to you guys and see if it's as clear cut as I believe it
Let
is.
me retrieve my
This
sword.
concerns a group of people referred to as the Nephilim. I believe I said that
You
correctly.
nailed it.
Nephilim.
Yeah.
Now, you think the Nephilim were all throughout the Bible. the way people talk about them, but they appear in 2 verses
Okay.
in the Old Testament, Genesis 6:4 and Numbers 13:33. I think maybe I should just read the 2 references. So here's Genesis 6, which I'll spend most of the time talking about. When man began to multiply on the face of the land and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive. They took as their wives any they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever, for his flesh, his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. That's Genesis 6, 1 through 4. And here is Numbers 13:33, the only other reference to the Nephilim. It's when the spies went out to check out the promised land, and 10 came back. 10 saw bad and 2 saw good,
There we
Tim.
go. Absolutely.
I remember that.
Remember
little
that song?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the people are afraid, and they said, this is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people that we saw in it are of great height. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim. And we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them. That's the only 2 references in the entire Bible to the Nephilim. Now, 2 questions.
Okay.
Who are the sons of God is the first one. And there is a very popular theory that the sons of God in Genesis 6 were angels. And that this is a story about how angels came down and mated with humans and produced this race of giants called the Nephilim.
Okay.
And the argument behind that is that all the other references to the sons of God in the Old Testament are references to angels. That's basically the argument from the Bible.
Okay.
And that sounds really strong until you look at how rarely you find the phrase sons of God in the Old Testament. It appears 3 times in the book of Job. And the first 2 times in Job are those narratives where Satan is among the sons of God
Mhm.
in chapter 1 and then in chapter 2. And then in chapter 38, when God is taking Job to school and asking him, where were you when I set the foundations of the earth? And he talks about how the sons of God rejoiced at creation, and that's obviously the angels there. And then one other reference, which has some variance involved, but there's another reference to sons of God that seem to be angels in Deuteronomy 32, 8 and 9. So outside of this, there are only 4 other references, and the Old Testament is a big book, okay? Only 4 other references to the sons of God. And sons of God, to me, is a pretty flexible term. I mean, when you get into the New Testament, sons of God is used a lot. And I know we're not talking about the New Testament. The sons of God is used of angels. It's used of Christians. I'm hearing stomachs growling again.
That was Tim. Here, have a Kit Kat.
It's used of a lot of different things. And so, but that's the theory. Now, it really draws from literature that came up between the Old and New Testament eras in what scholars call the post-exilic period. The Septuagint is a Greek translation of the Old Testament. And the Septuagint, which developed in that intertestamental period, translates the Greek word for angel here in place of the phrase sons of God. And then the other intertestamental book that does this is First Enoch. First Enoch tells this story as if angels were mating with human beings, but the giants that came from that were 400 feet tall. So if you're prepared to believe this because First Enoch says it, you have to believe that the giants were 400 feet tall.
Which is roughly a 35-story building, right? 400 feet.
That's a
roughly.
little hard to swallow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to make that my primary source, but if some people do. The other option is that these could be the children of Seth. And this makes more sense to me.
Okay.
Because you have Seth's story. Seth was the 3rd son of Adam and Eve. First 2 sons were Cain and Abel. Chapter 4, Cain kills Abel, and he's banished. And so the hope of humanity is Seth, the third son. And it's said in Seth's days that men began to call upon the name of the Lord after he was born in Genesis chapter 5. That's chapter 5. And then you have a genealogy there of Seth's children. And then you get to chapter 6, and the sons of God are marrying the daughters of men. And so it seems to me that the narrative flow leads to the idea that Seth's descendants began to intermarry with Cain's descendants. And then this leads to the wickedness spreading all over the earth and the flood. So that's the reason this is brought up, is to tell us how the world got really bad. It seems to make more sense to me that the children of Seth were interacting with the wicked children of Cain, and this is how this happened. Now, another problem with angels is what Jesus said about angels in Matthew 22, verse 30, when the Sadducees were questioning about the resurrection, and this woman hypothetically had 7 different husbands. She dies, they all die. Whose wife will she be in the resurrection? And he said, she'll be like the angels who are not given in marriage. So angels don't seem to be sexual creatures, according to that little reference that Jesus makes in Matthew 22.
Nor is there any other account of, so the spiritual and the physical are two different things, right? They're
and angels are spiritual beings.
Right.
Now, the response to that would be, look at how many times they appeared as humans. Yes, they're spiritual beings in their essence, but they can take on bodily forms.
But that's the appearance.
And they've done that.
That's their appearance. But
They ate food and
the
things like
only
that.
spiritual being that truly became incarnate, though, was Christ.
I believe that's true.
I think the others took on the form, but they would vanish, they would appear, they would go.
Wasn't like our body.
The other question I have that came up as you were talking is, what would be the purpose of angels coming down and mating, having children with mankind? There's no benefit from it. And then the next thing you read is that this happens, and then the world is just falling apart. You got the flood coming up next.
The answer to that, Jason, comes from the early Christian literature, and there is a lot of early Christian literature that supports the angel view.
Mm-hmm.
But see, I think they were all reading the Septuagint because they were Greek.
Yeah.
It was Greek culture, and I'm talking about 2nd, 3rd century Christian literature. Yeah. And they just believed that these angels found these women very beautiful and very attractive, and they could not hold themselves back. They were so tempted by these women. I also should mention another verse that they bring up in support of the angel view, and that's Jude 6, which says, the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he is kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. So their proper dwelling would have been heaven. They came down to earth where they should not have been and tried to live earthly lives. That's the view. So the first question, who were the sons of God? Some people say they were angels. I believe there's a lot of support for the idea that they're the sons of Seth. The second question is, who are the Nephilim? And, two possibilities. And one, of course, everybody wants to make them giants. And giants comes from Numbers 13, which says the Nephilim were the sons of Anak, like Goliath, I think, was one of those. And, they were giants. But that was a long time after Genesis 6. In fact, if you'll recall, in Genesis 6, everybody but 8 people gets wiped out. The Nephilim, the sons of God, the daughters of men, everybody but 8 people. And so the descendants in Numbers 13, whoever they were, the Nephilim in Numbers 13, were not connected to the Nephilim.
Gone in the flood.
Yeah. In the flood. Another problem with saying that they were the offspring of angels and daughters is, if you read it very carefully, the text tells you, verse 4, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, in the days when the sons of God started marrying the daughters of men, and also afterwards.
They were there before.
They were there before all that started happening. So the text tells you these are not, it never says they're giants. It never says they were the offspring. Nobody really knows what this word means. It seems to have as its root the idea of falling.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're fallen men, but the only description given to them is they were mighty men of old, the men of renown.
So
It doesn't say they're giants.
Can I ask a question? I've always wondered about this debate, and I've heard this discussion here. I've heard it with other people and in other areas. In the grand scheme of things, what does it all matter? So the people that say that these were the angels and they came down and interrelated with the daughters of men, how does that affect the outcome of the gospel? What's the benefit of that happening? Is it just one of those debates people like to have debates about that really have no real benefit to us in the long run as far as our salvation, our belief in God, our faith, and things like that?
I think it matters because some people get so carried away with these fanatical ideas that they miss the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm.
They go down the rabbit hole, they get obsessed with this, and they insist on this idea. They become dogmatic about it. And I've had a lot of people outside the church come to me and want to talk about this very question. Or they want to talk about something in the book of Revelation. They don't want to talk about their soul or forgiveness of sins or treating people with kindness or following Christ or dealing with trials in life with faith. The Bible to them is a book full of weird stories that they can debate. And that's why I think it's important to, and maybe I'm feeding that, I don't know, but I think it's important to say all this intertestamental literature that's not inspired, don't get carried away with that. This is a tale about the wickedness of man, not about how 400 feet tall giants began to roam the land.
And in the grand scheme of things, as far as our salvation goes, it's a moot point. To me, there's no, I mean, I can understand why people would debate it, but when it all boils down and Christ says what the two greatest commandments are, they're all about loving God, loving one another, and all of those things require the obedience that's talked about throughout the New Testament. And
yeah, and
I don't know.
what
I
we
think
need to know is that sin was so bad that God wiped it off the face of the
there
planet.
was a need for a Savior.
Yeah.
And that the Savior came and he provided a appeasement for the wrath of God, for the judgment of God, and he took that on for our part. And it's frustrating to me that, and we're bad about this. We're bad about this in the Churches of Christ. We're bad about this in all the other denominations out there. We'd like these little sticking points that we want to just dig our feet in on and argue. And I mean, I'm sure there are congregations that have either had splits or arguments or problems over topics like this, that in the grand scheme of things, I mean, I think it's a neat
They're
discussion.
missing the point.
I think it's a neat academic discussion, but in the grand scheme of things, that is not going to decide if I end up in righteous glory with God or in hell.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when you look at something like this, don't you have to consider the preponderance of the rest of the evidence of the Bible? So is it not just as plausible that the sons of God are talking about man being made in the likeness of God, right?
Yeah.
And so that's just as possible. And where is there any other account of this relationship of this sort happening between the spiritual world and the physical world? right? And so
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, it's like, you know,
So
is
this
there
happened one time in
right.
world history?
Is there
and
another
that's it?
and is there another plausible answer to what was going on here
Mhm.
that just involves men and women?
Mhm.
And it's also never, ever mentioned again in all of Scripture.
Yeah. Always heard that unless, let me make sure I get this right. Unless a literal direct reading involves a contradiction or an absurdity, you go with the reading on its face. You go with the simplest interpretation. The simplest interpretation of what we read is not that angels came down and mated with human beings and
Right.
formed a race of giants that pop up later after a global flood in the book of Numbers in the land of Canaan. That's not
Yep.
the simplest answer. And that they were 400 feet tall.
Were their name Bill Brasky by chance?
Maybe.
I think he was 400 feet tall.
They had names.
Yeah.
None are given us. So I found that interesting, and
It is interesting.
I
It's-
think it might be helpful to some people.
I think it's just crazy that we find little things like that
Yeah.
to disagree over.
Yeah, and here's
That-
Jason.
that's just crazy
When
to
I
me.
talk to somebody who is obsessed with something like this,
Mhm.
and I give them the boring interpretation,
Mhm.
it's a letdown
Mhm.
because they're really excited about these kinds of things, and they get really disappointed in me for not feeding into it. But
Yep.
I think we need to be interested in what it really says instead of leave the fantasy for. We're talking about Star Trek. Use science fiction and Lord of the Rings and all that stuff for your fantasy and your imagination. But read the Bible for spiritual formation. That's what Jason's trying to say. Anyway, let's talk about some baseball.
All right. So it's February the 19th today.
I believe so.
So pitchers and catchers have reported. I'm guessing
Is this Yay Sports?
Yes, Sports.
I didn't know if I'd missed the opportunity because you went right in.
Tim missed the opportunity.
So has Sam reported?
Oh,
Has
yeah.
he?
They had their first game at
Yeah,
McAdory
so-
last night.
I thought that they're playing in the cold.
Varsity won. JV.
Man, it was a
JV lost.
cold
Yeah.
night.
So all right. So so pitchers and catchers in the majors, I know, have reported. Probably by now, maybe the teams have reported. They're getting close. One of my coworkers is going to Arizona next week to watch the Cubbies play in spring training.
Why don't they ever have spring training in like Minneapolis or Wisconsin, Kansas?
One of my coworkers, it was 17 below where she was today. Another one, it was 24 below. And I was like,
Wow.
I told him it was 41 degrees, and one of them told me I ought to go jump in the pool.
Mm-mm.
And that's in Fahrenheit
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
in the imperial.
yeah, I think those are the reason that Arizona and Florida get spring training.
Probably right.
Yeah. So heard an interesting debate this morning. We like Major League Baseball around here. Like the Braves and the Rangers. Patrick, you got a team?
The Barons.
The Barons, all right.
That's a good
Absolutely.
choice. Good choice.
It is a good choice.
It's
And
the only baseball team we actually have around here.
that's right. And it's a fun place to go watch a game.
It is.
Um,
If they want to sponsor us, we'll take a sponsorship too.
And I know,
and some seats in one of those boxes.
Yeah.
just for the record, I know they're not Major League. I know I'm not a sports guy.
They are
but I know-
But they are professional.
They
They
are
are
professional.
They're a
Absolutely.
major league
Yeah.
affiliate.
But
Yeah.
minor leagues,
Make
absolutely.
$1.95 a game.
That's right.
But all for the chance to get to the bigs.
Yeah.
So, one of the challenges with Major League Baseball that's a little different than like the NBA and the NFL is how drastically the payrolls on the teams differ from one another. So, it's always been put to me that these small market teams, we'll take our buddy Nathan's Pittsburgh Pirates, right? They're considered a small market team
Barely a major league team,
relative to the New York Yankees
or the Dodgers
or the Dodgers. In huge cities, and part of the reason for that is that some of the makeup around the way that they make money in Major League Baseball is different than the NBA and the NFL because they have these local TV deals where they sell a lot of their games, and there's a lot of games to be sold. They play 162 games and 81 at home, and so there's a lot of money to be gained there. And so there's always been this contention that in today's world, the small team can't compete with the big team. Well, I was listening to a little debate this morning on a radio station as I was going to work, and they brought up that there's apparently some support for in Major League Baseball, not for them to have a salary cap, but for them to have a salary floor that says if you're a team in Major League Baseball, you need to spend at least this
you have
much
to
money.
hit this minimum payroll.
And the contention is that this whole story about small market teams has been basically the owners of these small market teams have been making bank for a long time. And they're like, we can't compete. We're a small market team.
But they've been making more money
making
than some of the big.
Now their overall revenue, let me give you an example here.
Okay.
So last year, the team that spent the most on their payroll was the New York Mets. And they spent $342 million on their payroll, which is crazy. I mean, that's nuts. But they brought in $393 million. And that means that in payroll, they spent almost all their revenue in payroll.
They came in $50 million to the good.
87% of their payroll they spent.
Does that payroll number just the players, or does that count all the support staff and
That's a good question.
I'm guessing.
I think
everybody.
it may be the whole shebang,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
But with probably, 330 million of that being
sure.
the players. So I looked up this list, and it's just interesting how drastically some of these things are different. For instance, let's go to a small market team. Let's take our buddy Nathan's Pirates, right? So
$4 for payroll.
So the Pirates brought in 2023, the same comparison, the Mets brought in $393 million. The Pirates brought in $309 million, right?
Okay.
Now, that's a 25% less, sort of, give
Roughly,
or take.
Yeah.
But their payroll was $120 million.
Good grief.
They spent 38.8% of their revenue
was to payroll.
And some fat cat made $200 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's an interesting, because really historically, and this is the way that I've always felt about it, is like, man, I hate the Yankees. I hate the Dodgers. They just buy championships. Well, really, they're taking this money that they make and they reinvest it back into that organization, and they want to win. And there's some teams, a la the old movie Major League, that didn't really care if they won or not, right? Yeah. They're just they're making money hand over fist, right? I mean, they are making serious money that they're not reinvesting back. And as long as you say, hey, we can't compete, we're just small, old, Minnesota Twins, or, make up the team, Kansas City Royals, then you can play that game. And they don't make, so, there's truth. The Yankees brought in $679 million last year.
Good grief.
Wow.
But they only spent $316 million. Now, that's almost as much as the Mets did. They were, in terms of their payroll, they were third, but they spent less than half of their money back into the team. Now, I think probably somewhere in here is that there are some baseball owners, and these are probably the ones that have had the team for 100 years through their family, that the family business is the baseball team.
That's right.
And then there are some people, like the dude that owns the Mets, who wants to win a world championship, but the family business is not the New York Mets. He bought the New York Mets because he's a billionaire in
Had to
some
spend
other,
it on something.
Yeah.
right? I can't remember that guy's name,
Yeah.
but I mean, he came in and started socking the money to it because he doesn't care if he, if he breaks even at this. This is his hobby, right? And so there's probably some of that, right? Where
There is, yeah.
where it's, is this your money maker or is this your toy?
That's right.
Right.
I see two goals. One is to win and the other is to make money. And both of them give us baseball. And I feel like if we meddle in this and make up some rules, you're going to lose teams. You're going to have players who can't get in anymore. There'll be fewer players in professional baseball. And I don't think it'll be good for the game.
And we lose the Cinderella story, the small potatoes that can come up and win the major game.
And that's the deal. And that can still happen.
Those are some huge stories.
And it does still happen, right? Because
so when's the last time, this is a hard question to answer, when's the last time something like that happened?
Not too many years ago, the Royals were in the World Series. I don't remember if they won or not, but they're definitely
That's
a small
good
market
example,
team.
Yeah.
They're probably one, they're one of the ones that comes to mind right off the bat.
Yeah.
As an example of that, the Brewers have been in the playoffs recently.
Mm-hmm.
They're a smaller one. And then there are just some of these franchises that are just sort of running the ground, right? The Athletics are just a dumpster fire, right? I mean, I think they're playing in Sacramento
in the
this
80s,
year.
that was a big team.
Sure, it was absolutely.
That was
So
Mark McGuire,
they've
Jose Canseco.
played their last game in Oakland. I think they're going to Sacramento for 2 years, and then supposedly going to Las Vegas if they get a stadium built. They may end up being a team without a town.
Yeah.
So anyhow, but it is a challenge of baseball that there is such a disparity between teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's good if you like a team that's a big, that has a big payroll or is willing to spend the money, but you really don't want a professional league where half the league never has a chance to win.
Yeah.
Now they do sometimes, like you said.
Every now and again,
right,
you'll get a Cinderella.
But that has to be a perfect situation where they've stocked their farm system and they all come up.
And as soon as that happens, they sell them all off.
Right, and we get them all to that point, and we make a run, and then they all go play for the Yankees, right?
But sounds like they do have a chance in terms of money. Everybody's making money. It's just some teams want to invest the money back into the players.
You got it.
And others want to line their pockets with it.
Right. And
so it is across the board. It's
right.
just how these teams are being run and the goals that they have.
And there is some disparity up at the top, but there's a whole lot of space that some of these teams are not spending, and they get to pocket the profit, right? And so the fact that so if it was a league full of Florida Marlins, hey, there wouldn't be big deals with the major networks and, all that money that they divide out equally, right? Like their national contracts. And there's even a luxury tax that teams have to pay when they get above a certain amount. So like, for instance, how much the Mets payroll was, they establish a bar that says if you spend above this, you get charged a 50%, like for everything above this amount, you get charged a 50% luxury tax. Where do you think that luxury tax goes back to? All those other sorry teams that won't pay their, won't invest in their teams, right? So, it gets divvied back out to everybody else. So, it's a real challenge in terms of, is it really right to say, hate the Dodgers, right?
Oh, I do.
And deservedly so, right? They stole Freddie Freeman for us, for one thing.
I'm heartbroken.
And I hate the Yankees. But should we also hate the teams that don't try?
Well,
Yeah.
but some of these teams haven't reinvested in their parks in 100 years. Now, I love Fenway; it's a beautiful park, but it's a little old. So is Wrigley. That's where I think Pat, our good friend Patrick over here, producer extraordinaire, has the best idea. The minor league teams are the fun ones to watch. I love me some minor league baseball because those guys are playing for their next meal, and they are hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot to play. A lot for them to play for. Man,
Oh no,
sounds
are
like,
you starting to smell burnt
sounds
toast?
like it's time for a break.
Yeah, I think we do need to take a break.
We'll be back in a few.
A history left forgotten, a history left unpunished. Miles and miles of white-cap green can't make up for that shame. These cotton rules are death-like, they came about through fire.
We're back, and we're going to go straight into our passage. And Patrick has the passage for us this week, so take it away,
I
Patrick.
do. After a YouTube rabbit hole one night, I found a choir singing a song, and it was sort of hauntingly beautiful. And I had to look up the lyrics to what they were singing because I couldn't understand in their singing, what they were saying. And so they were singing this thing that was found a long time ago, back after World War II, in a cellar where some Jewish fugitives were hiding. And the research I have says they were there for 4 months without ever being caught. And when they liberated all the people, they found our passage for tonight written on the wall. So I'll read this translation of it, and then we can talk about a couple of different translations and how they might change the meaning of it. So here's the passage. I believe in the sun even when it is not shining. I believe in love even when feeling it not. I believe in God even when he is silent. And
The sun shining makes me think that was particularly important to them, being down in
they were in a cellar.
Cellar, yeah.
And some of the research that I read, during the night, they would have to, or during the day rather, they would have to keep all the lights, all the lanterns off, because if the house they were hiding in was, inspected, I guess, they would see through the floorboards or something. So there is a little bit of translation, I guess, looseness where they flip the last two lines. So another loose translation is, I believe in the sun even in the darkness. I believe in God even if God is silent. I believe in compassion even when it must remain hidden. So a little bit of, is this them feeling compassion in such a hard time, or is this more a statement of, when God is silent, still believe in him? So is it more religious, or is it more in a hard time, feeling compassion and making it through a hard time? Is some of the difference in the translations.
What was the second line in the first translation you read?
I believe in love even when feeling it not.
Okay. And that turns into compassion in the second version.
Yep.
It's really beautiful.
Well, you think about the horror they were feeling at that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just to have just the courage to write something like that down in such a time of, you're hiding literally for your life.
And the lives of the people who are hiding you.
Yeah. Just to have the wherewithal to, that's, to me, it's a picture of faith. I believe in the sun even when it's not shining or in darkness. I believe in love when I can't feel it, and I believe in God when he's silent. That's faith, which is a pretty amazing thing considering the situation you're in. I would like to think that I would have that strong of faith to write something like that during that time. I can be a little bit woe is me sometimes, and I just don't know how I would respond. That's an amazing response.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Did they feel that fully and then write it? or were they writing it to try to preach to themselves and develop that faith?
That's a great thought. I like
See,
that. Yeah.
I kind of feel like there's some value if you're not feeling it emotionally and you know it intellectually that you need to have faith, you need to believe. Writing something out like that could be very powerful.
Well, you're taking action and you're letting your actions guide your feelings
Right.
and your emotions.
Expecting the feelings to get in line eventually.
Yeah.
I think there's some similarities to, you know, I know I've heard of stories of like prisoners of war who, you know, in their captivity would, you know, write passages of the Bible that they could recall. You're right. You know, either in, you know, on paper or on their walls or whatever. It just seems very similar. And I think that, you know, it has to be therapeutic in some way. I need to put this before me, as a reminder of this struggle that I'm going through. Right. And, you know, you just think about, you mentioned early on, right, that I believe in the sun when it's not shining, and, you know, they had to deal with a lot of darkness, and I believe in God even when he's silent. You know, there had to be that test from time to time. You know, is God still looking out for me today? Right, where their faith is being tested,
Or am I just shouting prayers into the void?
right? You know, and I'm in this place where, just like it has to be dark. We have to be silent. We can't be making noise. Has God forgotten about me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just these situations, like, you know, that they dealt with during the Holocaust. Just earlier this week, I remember seeing there's an exhibit in New York that they've opened up, which is a replica of the house where Anne Frank was hiding.
Oh,
And so, I mean, they had, I mean, it was like a full replica of the rooms and everything. And they either had some of the original artifacts that they had, you know, brought over from like the museum. I think it's basically sort of a clone of a museum in Europe. And they, you know, brought over some things, but everything looked strikingly similar to the original. And you know, then they were telling this same kind of story, just, you know, the whole idea of the quietness and how they had to hide, and, you know, what they had for provisions, you know, and, you know, the risk that the people hiding them were taking. And it, you know, those kind of things just have to be the ultimate test, right? I mean,
Sure.
You know, I'm no fan of dark. Not really good at being quiet. I mean,
excruciating
and
situation.
you just think about, for months, you know, they were
hungry.
They were dealing with that.
I got one other translation of the last line about love. I believe in neighborly love, though it be unable to reveal itself. And that makes me think about some of this research suggests that food had to be supplied by friends and family who were willing to give up their rations because everything was rationed. And so neighborly love, meaning I'll give you my ration, but I can't tell anyone about it.
Well, and even maybe people giving up their rations and things, and the people who were receiving them never even knowing who it was truly coming from, or who the people giving up the rations not knowing the people that were receiving it even. You know, the other thing, I love the three lines to this. I read the first part, I believe in the sun even when it's not shining. You can read that very literally, but I also read that as I believe in the light even when we're surrounded by darkness. I read that as not just, I mean, these were people living in, I mean, dark times. I mean, people who probably have lost family, loved ones. I mean, they are a people being exterminated. And that's a dark spot to be in, and believing that there is still good, there is still light. And, I think of all the passages in Scripture that talk about the light of the world, and where there is light, there is no darkness. And I'm sure that it was written about the literal sun, but I have to believe there was some hope in that idea of there being light in the darkness as well. Because the other two are more, you can't see love, you can't touch love. It's more kind of an ethereal thing. God is that way. And I kind of think that first line could be read that way too, as kind of a figurative reading.
That same last translation I read, the first line is, I believe in the sun, though it be dark.
Yeah.
You're in a cellar, no light, it's dark.
Yeah.
But the sun's out there.
The most striking line of the three to me is the one about the silence of God, because I think people expect to hear God more than we were ever intended to hear him. They look at the Bible as if there's a miracle on every page and that everybody is getting these individualistic personal messages from God. But God kept the miracles to a minimum, even in Scripture. And you have stories like Joseph. Joseph interpreted some dreams, and aside from that, his long story, which is about half the book of Genesis, has no miracles. He doesn't hear from God. He's in prison for 2 years and not a word from God. And I think that, there's so many things I want to say about that. But first of all, I think that's an encouragement to somebody who's praying and not feeling like he's getting results. Look at the Bible characters who went through the same experience. That's not an abnormal experience.
Yeah.
And I'll limit myself to this last point here, and that is that there must be a good reason for that. And that is that God's silence, he's silent because that's beneficial to us. And it gives us something that is hard to get. We wouldn't get it on our own. We wouldn't try to get this gift. It's something we wouldn't ask for. We want him to heal us immediately. We want the trial to be over immediately. We don't want to be tested. We don't want to be tempted. And instead, he's silent. That doesn't mean he's not working, that he's not there, that he doesn't care, but he's letting us grow and refining us through that silence. And then you think about Christ on the cross. He was crying out to God, but unlike at his baptism or transfiguration, there's no voice booming from heaven on Calvary.
No, in fact, he's asking, "Why have you forsaken me?"
And it
it's
grows,
surrounded
and it
in
gets
darkness.
dark.
Yeah, because the light had turned away.
For 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's dark and silent.
And at the end of those 3 hours is when Christ says, "Why have you forsaken me?"
Yeah.
I also think about the times that God did speak directly to people. They weren't necessarily the comforting answers that you want. I think
Good point.
I instantly thought of Job. Job has got it bad.
Yeah.
And he's questioning God. And then in Job 38, God answers Job. And he starts out with who is this that darkens counsel? He goes up and he tells Job to gird up your loins like a man, and I'll ask you and you instruct me, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? That's the very first question he asked Job. And then he goes on and he talks about, when I made a cloud its garment and thick darkness in its swaddling hand. And he talks about putting boundaries, and he talks about commanding the morning and all of these things. And he basically is saying, hey, Job, I know I've been silent, but I got this. I kind of created the world. I kind of caused the day to happen. He even goes on in chapter 39 talking about the effects he has on nature and the animals in nature. And the answers, when God does directly answer, they're not always what you want him to answer. I mean, he was teaching
he's
Job
silent on what Job wanted to know.
And instead he's
kept
telling
his
him,
silence, even though
Job,
he's talking.
I am still God, and I got this. That's basically how
all
I
you
would
need to
sum
know.
it up. Yeah. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's, I want to look at it, sort of step away from the 3 lines and think about the whole context of this again that we've been talking about. Drew preached a lesson, was it this past Sunday? Is America a Christian nation?
Yeah.
And, it was an interesting discussion about, what does that really mean? And, we refer you to the Asheville Road website if you want to listen
arcoc.com.
That's right, to listen to a good message, and very thought-provoking. During that lesson, I was sitting there, and sometimes you just have these moments like, I'm not sure I really want to think about that. But, I thought, so when does it end for America, right? Nations come and nations go. And we like to say that America's the greatest nation that's ever existed. And I have a lot of national pride, just like everybody else in this room does, right? But we see things from time to time that say, hey, we may not be the strongest. There are weaknesses in our country, and sometimes they're exploited and shown to us. And so is it in our lifetime that we might have to deal with more of an attack than we've seen before, right? An attack on our own land, our own nation falling. What would that look like? Who would we be subjects of? If it's not us, what about our kids or our grandkids? Will they see a change like that in their life, or will America still be here when Jesus returns? Maybe, but nations come and nations go.
I think about Daniel, who, if I'm not mistaken, saw 3 empires fall.
Right.
Well, not empire, Jerusalem, and then he goes to Babylon, and then Babylon is toppled by Persia, and he lived through all of that.
Right. And so
I believe
the real point of that, tying to this quote, is, are we building the kind of faith? You just said something a minute ago about just the whole idea that we have it pretty easy, and we don't like to be tested, and we don't like to be tried, and we don't even like to be inconvenienced very much. and so are we building the kind of faith that could bear up in these kinds of situations, right? When if you talked about, I think in that lesson, what's church attendance like now? And it's pretty bad sometimes, right? And it
was bad that night.
No, and some of it was because some of our folks were somewhere else, but some of our folks were even somewhere else. And it's like, are we ready for a serious persecution? That really tests us? And maybe we are, right? Maybe the test just has to come somewhere, and maybe it won't be to us, or maybe it'll be to our kids or our grandkids or their kids, I'd
like to think we don't know how strong we are.
Yeah.
But you don't know till you're tested.
And I think it's always good to look at things like this and study and consider that, right? Because you have to, about the only way you can test yourself is to put yourself through those mental gymnastics of put myself in that situation. What am I going to do? How am I going to be?
Y'all would have to kick me out because I can't be quiet for that long.
We would have a problem hiding from the Nazis with Jason.
Right? Yeah. And I'd freak out because the door was closed.
I'd be trying to get y'all to laugh. We'd get busted.
We'd be a sorry group of people.
Yeah.
Like, Patrick, can you string us up something we can do a podcast? What can we do to soundproof this room?
My shaky hand would start making a knocking sound.
Oh, no. Yep. Drew's going to be.
Tim's-
we got to kill him.
Yeah. Tim's stomach would be growling.
Yeah.
As happened earlier in this podcast.
I don't know. I'm glad you found that. I really, really like that. And I kind of want to go look up the choir that you told us about when we were texting back and forth,
Yeah.
singing it. Because I think if you say it was hauntingly beautiful, I don't think I've ever heard you use those terms. If you've used those terms, it's worth me going and trying to find it. I think it'd be cool to hear.
I'm guessing the copyrightists won't let us play the whole thing. But if you go,
Drew showed us how much
I did
to
some
play.
research.
yeah,
on,
I listened. I listened to that one. I like
like
that.
this.
So let me find the title. It's the St. Olaf Choir. I believe that's a German choir.
Not from St. Olaf, Minnesota, where Rose was from in the
not-
Golden Girls.
Not from the Golden Girls.
Which is what I thought at first
no.
when we started passing this text around.
Oh,
It's like, that's where Rose is from. And no one, Drew had to Google. I think you got it.
I knew St. Olaf's.
Yeah.
Once
Oh, yeah.
I saw it, it took me a while to make it to that thread.
Let me see if I can play our allotted copyrightable amount here, and then you can just go to YouTube and search St. Olaf Choir, even when he is silent.
That was a great pick.
Good job,
Great
Patrick.
passage.
Thank you.
That's something I'll go back to again. I'm going to put that in my files. And that's just typical, though, guys, of the kinds of quotations. Here's the segue. The kinds of quotations you can hear on this podcast. And so subscribe to it and tell your friends about it. Leave us a rating or review. We like to see the comments. Jimmy is out there on his own giving us comments on Spotify.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank
Jimmy,
you.
we
Stanio.
see that.
You're the man.
And Jimmy needs some company out there. I
He
mean, somebody
does.
go on Spotify and join in the conversation because he's really putting some thought into some of these things. And it's just good because it gets us out there a little more when the comments show up, the algorithm shows us to a few more people.
And I was like really excited when I was scrolling through and I was like, wait a minute, there's a comment. And it was a good one. I was excited
It's
about
always
it.
nice to hear from our friends.
Oh, man, yeah.
But we thank you. Even if you don't comment, we're glad that you're listening, and we enjoy this, and we like having you along for the ride. And so we'll be back next week, as always, with a new passage. Until then, John will take us out.
Follow us on Instagram at passages_podcast. And join us next time on Passages.